So the retirement age in the United States is 67. Now, about 20 years ago, that seemed like a reasonable age for a lot of people to retire. But nowadays, people are not going to be retiring in their 60s anymore. At this fucking rate, we're probably going to retire in like our 80s to late 70s if we're lucky. But today, we're not talking about how retirement is the goal here. Today, I'm going to be talking about how working till you retire just feels absolutely useless and pointless, and here's why. Now, the goal for a lot of people is to try to work until that retirement so they can have a lot of money saved up and, and be able to do what they want and whatever they want at that certain age, right? But unfortunately, there's a lot of downsides to it that actually a lot of people don't seem to talk about. And here's one of the things I want to say. A lot of people in America will work their back to the bone for retirement, but the reality is that a lot of people don't make it to retirement, right? And it's really sad because there's a lot of people who do want to work and have that freedom way ahead of time, and there's a lot of people who want to live life now and not work their ass off the whole time. And I understand that too, but yet at the end of the day, we all need money. But, it's really hard nowadays to have that work-life balance for people to fucking, work and then sustain a good paycheck while being able to save money and pay all the bills. The sad reality is that most people do not make it to retirement. Now, it could be due to their health or it could due to everything else like tragedies or anything happening in their lives or sometimes a work accident too. But the biggest reality is why a lot of people don't make it to retirement is simply corporate greed. It seems like now and more common these days that most people will lay off their hard earning employees that work for like 20 plus years, just lay them off just enough so they don't get retirement. And basically they have to start over and they're basically screwed for life. And this is why there's a rise of people starting their own businesses, is because of shit like this has been going on for the past like 15 years and maybe longer too. But it's really sad that a lot of these fucking people don't wake up to this shit until it's too late. There's too many people in America that want to be loyal to one company that does not treat them right, and unfortunately try to make it to retirement and boom, they get shunned or whatever, because whoever they started 30 years ago does not mean they will not change over time. And that's also a reason why a lot of people will try to start unions and everything behind the people's backs too. Even though unions are not perfect, at least you will have some job security for the most part. And I do support unions a lot more than someone who fucking turns their back on a worker who's been there, who's been nothing but loyal to them and treated them well. I've also heard stories about people like taking their own lives because they don't want to get through the grind anymore, because people just get really upset or they're really tired of the same repetition because they want more with their life. Now, you can take vacation and everything if you want to with your PTO, but there's some companies that will literally have to deny you even when you require that PTO and everything. And I find that shit absolutely bizarre too. And it's crazy that you got to ask to take a day off on some type of PTO that you've earned. And that's crazy as well, because there's some jobs that will fucking just, fucking treat you like a child. It's terrible. And once you finally make it to retirement, if you do get lucky, the sad part is that the retirement age of your funds and everything is what you have to live off of, right? And sometimes you might get some SSI or some government assistance. But the reality with government assistance is you barely get the bare minimal. And there's a lot of people I've met who are elderly that was working in like customer service jobs telling me that retirement is actually really horrible. A lot of them end up going back to work because they're bored, or they lost all spark and soul in their life, so all their creativity is just dwindled and gone because they were brainwashed their whole life to be working for somebody else to make them rich. And that's also a horrible thing to kind of think about too, is that what do you have to show for it from your retirement? There's some people who have nothing to show for it after all those years they worked for their retirement. The whole scheme of just working for someone until you retire and everything else and having a family just seems a very outdated concept now. Like, it's okay if you want to start a family, which is fine, but at the end of the day, nowadays, no company will take care of you. Only yourself can take care of you. And that's why you should definitely look out for yourself whatever you can, especially when it comes to taking time off for vacation time, because whatever family members you have left or what type of family you create, you definitely going to need that type of family in the long run. And fuck them companies, man. They just don't fucking want to care about your life. A really good example of this too is my own mom, right? Like, she worked super hard as a bartender for about 20 plus years. She worked at a company called Rosedale Barbecue. She was one of the hardest workers ever, right? And she bragged how hard she worked to her coworkers, and she did have some money like to show for it for a while, but her money management wasn't good. But the problem was that when she was finally able to kind of retire and go on SSI and everything, is that her body was so fucking beat down, dude. She had very bad foot problems and everything, and unfortunately she drank so much that she got gout on her feet and everything. And at the end of the day, I just didn't want to live that type of life. And why should you have to wait so long for a retirement just to enjoy your freedom when you're old, tired, and probably bitter if possible, when you can just try to, pursue something that could give you more freedom in the long run? And I don't care if it doesn't doesn't make me that much money. As long as I get more financial freedom, I think that's all that matters the most. The retirement age is what the goalpost is set right now in 2025, but don't be surprised in 30 plus years if it's set back to like over 100 years old, which is a very good possibility, because if as fast as everything's been going up with inflation, grocery prices, fucking car insurance going up, tariffs taking control of groceries and foods, who knows what could happen in the foreseeable future, even from like 10 plus years from now, because I do find that shit absolutely terrifying to even think about. I do think it's a great idea to work hard and achieve what you want, but the problem is that a lot of people took that energy and their great work ethics to the wrong companies, and that's why we were kind of here for what we're here today, because a lot of these fucking companies took advantage of very honest, hardworking people, and it's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, but it is in fact the reality of the whole situation. I'll never forget watching George Carlin on TV, like I wasn't alive when he was basically doing stuff on his prime, but I remember watching clips about George Carlin, and if you guys have not seen him, I do recommend watching his stuff, because he is the most funny but also honest person, and he kind of makes things, he tells the truth a lot in a lot of ways, and it's really interesting to see how he fucking was able to do what he did in his time. I honestly don't think it was a generation blaming tactic either. Like, a lot of people like to go around and stuff and blame like the boomers for everything or blame the other people. While they did fuck up a lot of things, man, the people who fucked it up the most is honestly the government. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that. But yeah, the government really did fuck a lot of shit up the last 5 years too. And it's always been kind of bad, but it's like a million times worse now, if that makes sense. And I try not to like pay attention to everything political on the fucking internet. But sometimes, man, there's some motherfuckers that pull some crap and you're just like, why, man? Why would you do this? Now, the good thing about this whole situation is that if you're young and whatnot, there's a lot of good options that a lot of people did not have like 30 plus years ago, especially internet opportunities, like obviously social media or anything that could help you benefit your life or build a resume until you find something that you truly want that makes more money. There's a lot of people who sleep on freelancing, because freelancing is actually one of the most underrated things. Like, you could actually help people build stuff or help people teach stuff for a little bit of money as well online, or also you could also do some graphic design, build designs for people and sell them. Now obviously this is easier said than done, but if you're really serious about something like this, it's really easy once you kind of get the hang of it. You just got to be very fair in pricing, and you got to know some people and build connections as well, because building connections is one of the most important things in the workplace, especially when you're trying to find a good job. I think YouTube's a very powerful tool in order for you to teach you something that you haven't done before. Like, I remember learning how to code a little bit off YouTube, and I remember in high school I do learn how to code a couple websites, and I am thinking about maybe possibility of like coding more websites through like Dreamweaver or something like that, because I did enjoy it when I was younger, but fuck, dude, I bet things are a lot more easier and smoother now that I'm a young adult, I think it'd be cool. There's also people who are into like building their own computers and then selling them to other people and kind of flip it for a profit too. I have a couple friends that do this, and I think it's fun. It's definitely hard though. It's definitely on more of like the gamble side of things, that people know what they're buying and stuff. But at the same time, as long as you're not scamming them and ripping them off, and you're an honest person and a good business guy, they'll definitely respect you 100%, and they'll definitely give you more opportunities to get more sales. Anyways, everybody, that's all I got to say about working until you retire. And what's your guys' views and opinions about this? Like, for me, I do think that it's possible to retire, but you gotta be very lucky and you gotta have a very good paying job to do it the traditional way. But there's ways you can think outside the box, but you just gotta be willing to try. And you also gotta ask questions too, because there's a lot of people in today's fucking society that just don't ask enough questions. If you're interested into starting something with a program or whatever you want to do, I think it's best to go on YouTube, look up the program you want to learn, like Photoshop, Dreamweaver, Adobe Premiere, or whatever you want to do, and then follow it and see if you like it, because that's what I did when I was younger, and see if you can maybe use that to an advantage to maybe make a sale or something, or a profit, or just just do it for fun too, because there's nothing wrong with doing it as a hobby, and just see if you can get passionate about something like that and see how far it takes you. Anyways, thank you guys so much for hearing me out, and I'll see y'all in the next video, so peace out.